Hello, welcome back to another video tutorial here at Geekatplay Studios. My name is Gary Miller. In this tutorial, I'm going to use Modo 501 and Photoshop, and I'm going to create a wooden barrel, like a whiskey barrel or a beer or a wine barrel. And we're going to texture it in Photoshop and apply those textures to the model here in Modo. And this is going to be a very basic, very basic modeling and texturing tutorial. Kind of aim towards beginners or someone who's interested in looking into Modo to see if it's something that see if it's a program that they could get their hands around and see if the workflow fits them. So to begin with, I'm going to come to a right-sided view here. I'm going to choose my cylinder, hold down Control, drag outwards. Now I want my cylinder projected along the y-axis, so I'll choose Y. There we are. Now I want the item to be in the center of my scene, so I have a little hot button that I have programmed up here, but if you have an object that you want centered in your scene, it needs to go right here. Come over here to center selected, all, and you have to have the item selected first. Okay, so I'm going to use my R button to bring up my scale tool, and with edges selected, I'm going to select those center edges, L on the keyboard to loop that, R to bring up my scale tool, and I'm just going to drag that out. Now I'm going to hit B on the keyboard, and over here on roundness level, I want a number value of 4. And I'm just going to click and drag in the viewport, and what I want to do is I want to make all of these subdivisions of equal size. So I'm just going to eyeball it. There we are. That looks good to me. Now what I want to do is I want to take and make wood metal bands to go along the top, the bottom, and the middle. But currently the way this is divided up, I don't have a band in the middle. All I've got is that. So I'm going to double click on it to select the whole thing, B on the keyboard to bevel that, and I'm going to set around this level of 0, and I'll just bevel this out until it looks to be about the same thickness or the same size as the rest of these, and that looks good. Alright, I've got those selected. Select some of those, L on the keyboard, Control C to copy that. Over here I'm going to add a new mesh item, Control V to paste that in. Now I've got my barrel and the metal rings. I'm going to come back to a perspective view, choose my barrel with polygon selected. Let me set my symmetry to Y with my polygon selected. I'm going to hit B on the keyboard, click right in here, and with 501 group polygons is by default checked. I'm just going to inset this a little bit, shift and click in the viewport, and then use my blue handle to inset this a little bit more. There we are. I'll turn that off. Come back over here to my metal bands. Now I want to add some thickness to this, so on the basic tab I'm going to use the thicken tool. Now watch what happens if I add some thickness to this. Because this barrel is made up of wooden pieces, you would expect it to be kind of blocky, vertically speaking. But this metal band, it should be perfectly round, and you see, looking at it, you see it shares the same subdivision or polygonal characteristics as the barrel does. Well, I want this to be a smooth ring all the way around, so I'm going to undo that. What I want to do is I want to divide this up. So I'm going to come over here to edges, select a bunch of those, hold the up arrow, and it'll select that loop all the way around. I'm going to hit B on the keyboard, and with a roundness level of 3, I'm just going to click and drag out and make them all approximately the same size. That looks good. Now if you notice, some of these are, most of them are straight up, parallel to one another, and then you've got some at various intervals that are crooked like this. Well, the easiest way to solve that problem is come over here to the Deform tab, choose Smooth, and then watch these these lines here. With Smooth selected, just click in the viewport, spacebar to drop the tool, and now everything is perfect. Come right around over here, hold the up arrow, select all those, B on the keyboard, and I will just make these, the ones in the middle here, the same size. And I'm done with the symmetry, so I can turn that off for now. And these don't need to be adjusted because these were all set from the center. These needed to be adjusted because they were away from the center, away from the action center, the origin action center here in the center of my scene. But no big deal. Got a quick little fix. Okay, now it's time to use the thickness tool. So on the basic tab, thicken, click, and I'll just drag outwards a little bit. Let me get a good look down here. There we go. Okay, I'm going to select these inner ones. I don't need them. L on the keyboard to loop that, and I'm going to delete it. Select some of those, L, delete. I don't need any of these inside ones. Loop that and delete it. Okay, there's one more thing to do. I'm going to come to a right side view and change my display to wireframe. If you notice, I'll turn symmetry back on. The thicken tool, these vertices should all be lined up, and they're not. So because I have symmetry on, whatever I do up here, it will also do down there. So I'll select all of those, R on the keyboard to bring up scale, and I'll zero them out along the y-axis. Select all those, R, and those are done down here. And the ones in the middle, those are fine. Okay, I'm going to take all my polygons from this mesh layer, Control X to cut them out of there, and I'll paste them in on this layer, Control V to paste them in there. And we are finished with this, so now it's time to come over to the UV tab and UV map this so we can apply a texture image to it. Okay, with polygons selected, I'm going to select the barrel here, and I'm going to come over here to the UV relax with iterations. I'm going to choose 1,000, and I'm just going to click in the viewport, and it will relax that mesh perfectly. And I'll select the bottom, and Control Shift can select the top, and I will map these on with a planar projection, R on the keyboard, and I'm just going to scale them down, and I'll move them down here. Double click that ring, double click that ring, UV projection tool, and I will use a spherical projection on this. Let me select these polygons and H to hide them. And there they are right there. That's why. Okay. I still had my symmetry on. because they're overlapping. There we are. I was having difficulty separating them. Okay, what I need to do is move this up or down. Move it down. And I'll just scale the whole thing up. There we are. Come to edge mode. W key to bring up the move tool, and I'll move that right down in the middle of there. Polygon mode. And I'll, whoopsie. Polygon mode, and I will drag these up. I'll just put them one right over the top of the other. They'll never be seen. U on the keyboard to unhide the other components. And I'll move this right over there. So now all of my wooden pieces are lined up. Actually, Control Z to undo that. I still have some more work I need to do on this. And I'll show you why. Okay, I'm going to select select a few of these. I want to break this up because wooden barrels like this are constructed of various pieces, and I believe they're called staves. Each one's going to share a different wood appearance. So I don't need them to all look like they came from the same piece of wood. I want them to look individual and unique. So by splitting these up, they'll be able to share hopefully a different area of the wooden texture and therefore look a little bit more random. I'm going to hit W on the keyboard. Now one thing I want to do is make sure tear off is enabled because that will allow me to separate it. So select these, and I'll just move these about randomly. I want them to look as random as possible. So I'm just going to pause here and just move these around. Okay, I'm done with that. Let me move these off to the side. Let me take the top and bottom, put it, I'll put it right there. Take this. Now the wood grain is going to be running vertically like this, and it needs to also run the same for here too. So E on the keyboard to bring up rotation. And I'll set that right there. Now we have to deal with these metal bands. So let's select these. And we'll use a spherical projection for them as well. And we'll probably have the same problem here. So let me select that one. Nope, that one's fine. I gotta select the bottom one. Let me hide all these wooden pieces. Come over here to edge mode. Zoom in here, W on the keyboard, and we'll just move that out. I'll have to do the same to these. Zoom in. R on the R on the keyboard, and we'll scale those out. Now let's see this last one. Okay, I need to select that one individually. So let me see, is it that? Yep, that's the one. There we are. Okay, the metal bands are done. Let me just select these, move them down, one on the other. E on the keyboard. And we'll move it against the far edge of our texture map when we create it. And this can get moved over here. Top and bottom. Moved right over there. Okay, now here comes the wooden staves. I'm going to scale these up so they will utilize as much of this texture as possible. So R on the keyboard. And there we go. Now, even though it's hanging off the edge, if I am able to choose a seamless wood texture, then where it runs off here, it will start again here without having a border. So let me select all of these. I need to relax them. Let me choose the top and bottom and hide them. I should have relaxed these first. Hide the top and the bottom. And I still have okay, we'll try this. Loop that, hide it, and we'll do the same thing with the top. Loop that, H to hide. Okay. All of these need to be relaxed. So I'll relax them and let it run through its paces here. Okay. That is finished. U to unhide everything. And now we're ready to create a UV map from this. So I'm going to come up here to Texture, and right here, Export UVs to EPS. And I'll just save this on my desktop called UVs. And with it here on my desktop, I'll just click on it, open it up in Photoshop. Now I'm going to change the resolution to 300 and the image size to 1000. I'm going to duplicate this layer, and the more I duplicate it, the darker it will be. Makes it a little easier to see. Create a new layer, Alt Delete to fill that in with white and move that layer underneath. Okay, now we can see our texture map. Well, I'm going to open up Bridge and choose some textures. Okay, I think I'll choose this wooden board here, and I'll just drag it right into my image and flip it around because I want the grain to run with the direction of these wooden pieces. Now, one thing I want to make sure of is that the edge of my wooden texture comes right about to the center here. I don't want it to come over onto my metal. If it does, then the metal will show part of the wood texture. Now, even if it does, we can work around it, move it back, or there's some other tricks. I don't want this image to look too compressed. Okay, that looks pretty good. And now back into Bridge, got to find a metal texture. Metal. And I will go with something simple. Now I think this one is a little bit too small. It's only a 500 by 500, so we'll have to scale it up. And it may not look too great, but like I said, this is just a demonstration on how to use the tools here in Modo. Does that look stretched? Yes, it does. Let's see. That looks better. Okay, let's trim off the excess. This is our texture map, so I'm going to save this to the desktop, save as, and JPEG, and I'll call this barrel texture. And minimize Photoshop, close out of bridge. Okay, we need to create a material for this. We created the texture, but here in Modo we need to create a material and then assign the Photoshop texture that we created to this object. So I'm going to hit M on the keyboard to bring up my material, polygon set material, and change this to barrel. And over here in the shader tree, open up render, and there's my barrel that we created. And right now there's nothing in there but a blank material. It's a white color. It's just like creating a new file in Photoshop. You automatically are given a white background if you set that in the preferences. Well, here in Modo it's the same. This is my white background. I need to add a layer. It's going to ask me what kind or where to find it. Load image and barrel texture. And let's come back to a modeling view. And lo and behold, nothing's changed. Well, we need to change the display to either texture or shaded texture. And with the default lighting, this is how it looks. It's not lit correctly, and certainly this is not how it would look if you bring it into view or set up your lights to render it another way. And so this is just a very basic tutorial on how to create a wooden barrel here in Modo and texture it in Photoshop. And that's it for this tutorial. I hope it's been helpful and informative for you. So thanks for watching here at Geekatplay Studios. My name's Gary Miller, and have a good day.